I would like to introduce the presentation team for the first paper, the understanding from the inside out and outside in. Vuth Lyno, he is an artist and curator and educator interested in space, cultural history, and knowledge production. He is also the member of Steve Salapak Collective, which founded and co-run Sasa Art Projects. Eva Roy, she is an architect and education-focused academic in the School of Built Environment from University of New South Wales, Sydney, Australia. Piseth Phal, he is an architect and also lecturer at the Royal University of Fine Arts, Cambodia. And he has been a RUFA course partners with the UNSW Sydney with the Eva. Thuon, he holds a PhD in social science in urban studies, and his research interests include urban transformation, vulnerability and resilience in practice, urbanism from the bottom, water security, gender inequality, and ethnic relations. So please welcome the first team for the morning sessions.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Lyno, and as Professor Nattakun has introduced, today I'm joined by my other three colleagues, Eva from UNSW Sydney, Piseth from the Royal University of Fine Arts, Phnom Penh, and Thuon from the Royal University of Phnom Penh. Thank you, Professor Beng Kang and the all co-conveners for having us in this fascinating conference. So today we will talk about our Street Life Studies Urbanism course, which focus on this idea of understanding from the inside out and outside in.
Thank you, Lyno, and thanks for having us here today. So in the Street Life Studies course that we're talking about, what we try to do is just introduce students to ways of learning from and with communities on the ground. And we'll talk in a bit more detail about this, but broadly, we ask students to immerse in neighbourhood streets and to explore how and why those streets are used and also creatively adapted by everyday citizens. What we've tried to, or what we've kind of developed over the years is a way to think about streets as a platform to consider how we can shape cities more collaboratively, and often that means more informally and from the bottom up. And so today we're going to talk about this course in a new mode, in sort of pandemic hybrid mode, and the approaches, as Lyno was talking about, that we've taken in bringing together this knowledge from the inside, so through students in their neighbourhoods, through local residents, in communities around the world, and connected this to knowledge from the outside, so through collaboration with other students, the academy, and international guests.
Yes, so Street Life Studies is an introductory course which brings together students from across borders, including those from Cambodia, Hong Kong, Australia, China, Singapore, and beyond. And these are all from different institutions, of course. And we want to emphasize on a decolonial practice through ways that the course is structured. So we encourage a two-way exchange between the students, as well as to center on the practice by the residents and user, how they use, design, and adapt their environment.
To give you all some context on the evolution of this course, it goes back to 2016. And so since 2016, the University of New South Wales in Sydney has been partnering with the Royal University of Fine Arts in Phnom Penh, and Piseth will be talking later in this discussion. And so for these 5 years, students from Sydney have come and travelled to Phnom Penh, and they've worked with their Cambodian student partners to explore street life in the neighbourhood that surrounds the Royal University of Fine Arts in the middle of Phnom Penh. So we wondered what to do then when the pandemic hit. And we tried to think about how to keep offering this experience to students. There was interest from students in both institutions, how to kind of support the partnerships that were really crucial to this course, and also how to kind of stay true to the core aims of learning that we tried to instill from the start. So earlier this year, so in January this year, we piloted a hybrid model that saw students who were around the world, as Lyno was saying, explore their local neighbourhoods and then come and share this together online.
So we want to focus on 3 key questions for today. How can a connection to place be fostered through this hybrid international community-centered urbanism course? How can this approach inform the future post-pandemic programs? And how this course has impacted the existing and new curricula at 2 Cambodian universities?
So we're going to start with the first question and just talk through 4 teaching and learning methods that we've tried and that we're learning from to foster this idea of a connection to place in hybrid international teaching. And by place, we talk about the tangible and intangible qualities of spaces and environments. And we also talk with the students about people and the other life forms that inhabit these spaces. So talking about community, I guess, in quite a broad sense. So the course this year started by asking students to go out and we said, re-see your local neighbourhood, wherever you are in the world. We grouped students into themes, despite them being in different locations, and we set small exercises where they explore everyday patterns of life on the streets in their neighbourhood and the bottom-up changes that were being made by residents and users in response to those everyday challenges and opportunities that are being encountered. So within this, we're kind of asking students to think about the role or the meaning of the street in the everyday lives of the people who use it. And what we'd like to do today is talk a little bit about some of the strengths and weaknesses and that we've encountered in this mode of learning. So when looking at some of our student feedback, one student noted that the strength of this really local approach was their ability to think, they said, more seriously about the area that they live in, despite having studied abroad. And so we were thinking perhaps reconnecting students to their local communities and to their local neighbourhoods could be a way to help students apply theoretical university learning to these environments, and perhaps also to build a sense of civic agency through their ability to connect to this really relatable and lived local area. In terms of the challenges or the weaknesses, we talked about this as a staff team, and we did feel that the fact that we had local neighbourhood studies that were dispersed across the globe meant we did lose some of the depth and the connection that comes with the student group coming together and working together with one neighbourhood in one physical location.
And through this edition of the hybrid online studies, we were still able to maintain this fundamental methodology to look, to listen, and to draw for the students. So here, by looking, we asked the students to slow down, pay attention and observe how people use design and adapt their own environment in a changing day context, and also to listen how they use their demands or challenges, what works, what doesn't work, and to then draw out, from what they've seen and heard, not to represent, but rather use this approach to build their critical eyes, by highlighting their subject of interest from their research, but also to start to analyze things, what meaning, all these elements come together. And so, yeah, we received some positive responses from the students, including such that this exercise, really triggered the students to start paying attention and see how much this sort of like observation can inform their design practice. On the other hand, we also acknowledge that there's still room for improvement in terms of improving our field training, that it could be more comprehensive, so that it could assist the students better to execute this exercise of looking, listening, and drawing. And we feel that because of this online condition, it didn't give us this sort of like immediacy in ways that a physical class could take place together in the street.
So following this process of field-based looking, listening, and drawing, we brought students and our teachers together online, and we asked students to compare neighbourhood street life around the globe, and also to listen to some great guests, some of whom are here today, talk about street life and give feedback in their local areas. So we framed this as looking from the outside in. We've never tried this comparative exercise in the course, so it was our first year of doing this and doing it online. And I guess we saw this as a chance for students just to dip their toes into really diverse but also similar expressions of community-driven urbanism around the world. But maybe more importantly, we hoped for the comparison to help students to kind of reflect inwardly on context in their local area, on the importance of context more broadly, and on the complexities and the nuances of street life in their own neighbourhoods. It was interesting to see the mixed ways that students responded to this task, and how they responded to teamwork online. Some students gave us some feedback in saying that in thinking about that comparison phase of the course, one student talked about just it being interesting to understand how human activities actually change from place to place, that it's not a one-size-fits-all. And another one of our Cambodian students talked about the value of having international guests and speakers help them to understand, again, that there are actually many ways to positively benefit communities in terms of our role as architects, as urban designers, as urban creatives. In terms of the challenges we faced, we did feel that, going back to this same point, the lack of really visceral or kind of physical connection to street life being compared meant there was a risk of oversimplifying the nuances of kind of place and the nuances of what students were hearing from residents and street users.
So at the end of the course, we asked the students to propose light interventions. So the goal for this exercise is to bring in all what I have learned through previous stages as building blocks that we build for the students, to use this sort of community-driven input, as well as their understanding about how a local a locality is shaped, designed, and adapted by the local communities to think about what could be a response to that site. And this light intervention were not only physical, they could also be an event, a game, a process, a workshop, something that we encourage the student to think that contribute to a richer and lively street. And this way, we're starting to see, how that, comprehensive understanding of space, could shape this intervention. And yeah, some students were really responded very well, and some were less so, and we're starting to realize that, and actually it's this quality of the embeddedness, of students in the local neighborhood actually sort of like it affects, the quality of the intervention project they proposed. Nevertheless, we see students starting to have this, we noticed that they're starting to build these critical eyes, and after this course, they responded that they're starting to see street life in everywhere. This could be some ideas for this intervention, for example. However, of course, we see that because of the constraint of the time and structure of the course, we wish to have more opportunities to allow the residents to have conversations and inputs in, or like what do you call it, feedback to the students' ideas as well, which we wish that we had more opportunity to do so.
So, as we said, this is a fairly fresh experience. We only ran this in January. So we've been thinking more recently about how some of these learnings can help to inform what we do in the future. And if we go back to our goal here of trying to shape meaningful, international, community-centered courses that are of mutual benefit, so that benefit the students in building a way of seeing the world, as well as the skill sets that we've talked about, and also benefiting our neighbourhood partners, then we're thinking maybe we can hold on to some of the hybrid approach that we trialled this year. The thought is that perhaps we could break this into two stages, whereby in part one, students, teachers, guests, could come together from international locations online and work in their local areas. But we could really focus on building those preparatory skills in, community-centered looking and listening and engaging and drawing. And then part two would be trying to deepen these skills and deepen the relationships by coming together in one city, say Phnom Penh as it was, and really building a longer term engagement with one neighbourhood group, which we're very lucky to have the opportunity to do through a collective research grant that we're now a part of.
Okay, just for the short notice, you will have 4 minutes.
Thank you. I'll hand over to Piseth now.
Thank you, Eva and Lyno, for a very descriptive of the course. And I am Piseth. I am from Vuth, Faculty of Architecture and Urbanism. So in Street Life Study under the Community Engagement Design Education, so it have impact a lot for Vuth. And our university is a School of Design, so we are specialized in the cultures and fine art. And Vuth is more focused on culture and fine art. So our design approach is somehow more about cultures, art, designing in the sense of sustainability and so on. So we have touched a little bit about the community engagement. but the cost of community engagement in design. So it's not only it is not only on our focus in the curriculum yet, but we have done this some sort of course, in the forms of partnership with our university through the workshop. And the past, 5 or 6 years ago, since the academic of 2018, like Eva have said, so we have done the course with Sydney UNSW Faculty of the Environment. So under the program of informal urbanism, the street life study, I have noticed that the community participation in design education seems become more like common recently. So through SLS, so it provides us the opportunity for collaborative work, and it also influenced to my design studio. So it's allowed us to, understand more about the empowerment, the most important stakeholder engagement, the user, especially community involvement in design intervention, and more techniques we have absorbed, we have earned from our partner, the university. It is helpful for us to create a regenerative design intervention through careful investigation. And it's a sort of, for example, observation and dialogue. It's a useful tool for us to share to our students. And during the pandemic, so we still maintain our relationship sort of workshop through online platform and across cultural partnership. It allows students to exchange ideas internationally, and I noticed that the students have, enable their mind to deeper understanding the role of, their architecture, with the integration of community involvement, and they earn a broad the view from a diverse informal, sort of life through the cultural learning. And one more thing that it's also it's useful for us from the introduction of introduced by UNSW. It's a mirror. It's a new application. It's also useful, and there is a kind of online learning that it's allow student and teachers to do many things in the platform. That we can sketch, we can brainstorm, we can do many things in that platform. So thank you.
Okay, that's finished. Or okay, I think we unfortunately we have only 1 minute left. And could you please summarize and wrap up your presentation, please?
Maybe we just one slide more, and then we can summarize the. What I present here is just to reflect what the urban street life study, how this has influenced our new curriculum development at the Royal University of Phnom Penh. At Royal University of Phnom Penh, we has established a new program on sustainable urban planning developments. This program is aimed to cultivate urban professionals that can be trained to work for mostly at the government's agency for long-term development planning. So I come across this course through reading material and attending the virtual seminar hosted by the student and Eva and Royal University of Fine Art. And it is very much, the course also very much influenced what we have proposed in the program called Location Study that focus on the bottom-up urban change and local transformation. That is one of the key influence that we found with our new program at the OUPP. And we also have like observed the weak point of the students so far through the online presentation. One of the weak points is the lack of the conflict, the negotiation that they draw from the observation from the local residents and different group of people who using the street and fight to make the better place in the street. So this is very much a reflection to what a professor from the Taiwan at the open keynote. He also talking about the philosophy from the West and the Chinese philosophy that's encounter to make a better place. And of course, this program very much influence on our use classroom. Our program will design as a smart classroom that become more digital, that can be used both online and offline. And also the design studio and the GIS lab also will be equipped to our new program. That is what we can say from the urban street life study, that how it come to influence to our program at the Royal University of Phnom Penh. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe we can end with this slide to acknowledge that this course is possible through this amazing network of partnerships, which, you know, most often messy, but also that we build on flexibility and trust that allow us to run such a course in this changing context of pandemic.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the first team.